Hello, hello, hello. We are super excited on tonight. I am really excited to be coming with our first show on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Oh my goodness. I am ecstatic with joy and so glad to have you all on. Yes, yes. We're getting started shortly.
Trying to make sure. Can you hear me, Tammie?
Yes, Dr. Bailey, we can hear you.
Bingo, mingo. Let's turn my volume up a little bit more.
Hello, hello, hello. We are
Make sure that I don't have. Do you want me to stay unmuted, dear?
Yes, for a moment. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. No, I'm going to mute yourself for a second. Thank you. Well, we're getting ready to get started while our production manager is behind the scenes, getting ready to bring Dr. Patricia Bailey in. I just want to talk a little bit about who we are and what's happening. Of course, most of you all know this is our first show, and we are ecstatic. We are super ecstatic. Mindset to millions. Yes, yes, yes. I have partnered with Mega Source Entertainment, MSE, and we are super hyped. When I tell you I'm hyped, I am hyped. I am your host, Dr. Tammie Harris, and our show is called Mindset to Millions. And we just believe that everybody in the earth deserve to have the opportunity to possess a great mindset, which will help them get to their next, achieving their financial success across the board. You know, our focus mainly is to, with this show, is to help you understand that you belong at the table. And we see being wealthy and having a mindset to millions as a holistic approach. It's not just your monies, but it's your health. You know, it's your wealth, it's your mindset. You know, do you have wisdom? And so I call it the components of being healthy, wealthy, and being wise across the board. So this Dr. Patricia Bailey, I tell you what, this lady who I'm about to bring on tonight, I had the awesome opportunity to meet up with her just recently in November. We went to South Africa, Johannesburg, to build some tiny homes. And I'm just honored to know her. I call her my coach, my mentor, and she's been a friend to me. And I'm just beyond blessed. And when I thought about our show and I thought about the components that we focus on, such as an abundance mentality, a growth mindset, we're going to have an opportunity to, experience what it's like to have an entrepreneur mindset, positive money mindset. We've been called and told so many things that we should think about and not think about. But I thought about her. She needs to be the first guest on this show because she has a huge mindset for missions. And I call her the Versace of missions because I've never been on a mission trip until I connected with her. And when I tell you she is the Versace of missions, I'm telling you. Dr. Pat, I had a chance to meet her through Bill Winston's Ministries at our FMA conference. And I just fell in love with her. And she's awesome. And you will see that tonight. She's an author. She's a coach. She's the founder of Master Touch Ministries Global. And, she's a lecturer. She's a preacher. She's a teacher. I mean, she's some of everything to everybody. But what I love the most in the last, well, more than actually 40 years, she have actually served in 145 countries around the world in bringing deliverance, food, tiny homes. That's where we went to build the tiny homes and the playground and technology centers. And she brings salvation to many souls. And I'm just super excited. I can go on and on about her, but I'm going to stop because y'all know I love to talk. But without further ado, if we can bring her to the screen, I would love to see her beautiful face on this afternoon so she can tell us a little bit about herself.
Is your tech person bringing me in?
Yes, you're in, darling.
Great. I didn't know. I'm just sitting here ready. ready. Well, I'm honored to be here. Tammie, it's just awesome. And it's wonderful when great minds come together and you have an opportunity to bond and just be with your sisters. Got a sneeze coming on something here. I'm getting doubly blessed, guys.
Bless you.
When we're around women and men, people that make our baby leap, people of light, precious faith, and where we get to sharpen one another. And as I always say, we don't compete, we complete one another. So I'm here and honored to serve. And anytime you need me, you have a blank check favor with me. Okay.
Oh, wow. Wow, Dr. Patricia, that means so much to me. I know you've been all over the place today. You had a chance to do some things for MLK Day with your grandchildren, and then you got back, on time to jump in with us. Just tell the audience a little bit about yourself. Something maybe I didn't share. I know I shared a lot, and if I went on and on, we'll be up here all night. But tell us something about yourself that you would like for us to know.
Well, I've been called as a mobilizer in the body of Christ to mobilize people, and we don't apologize that one of the core assignments is to mobilize people of color and from the African diaspora to the foreign mission field so that they can have a global mission, a global vision. And that's because many lack of biblical worldview because we make up less than 1% participants on the foreign mission field. And we've got to change that. And so that's one of the main primary thrusts upon my life is to mobilize people, give them a worldview, give them an opportunity to do business outside of the United States, ministry outside of the United States, life outside of the United States, and to just get a worldview. And in mobilizing, we just develop strategies. We have customized global strategies for each individual person, because I believe that for every last one of us, there is an extension to our reach. And many times we limit ourselves to just the city we were born in, the state we were born in, the region we were born in, the county we were born in, and the country we were born in, and never spread our boundaries and our tents to see our potential, a potential that lies within us. Like I never knew 43 years ago that I could be owning 4 houses in South Africa and vehicles and ministry be registered in South Africa and on television, prime time in South Africa. It just wasn't in my mind. But as I began to expand and begin to understand that God, that's something that God put in all of us. He gives us the ability to take our tent and expand our boundaries. We can take our stakes in the tent and we can, depending on how far you want those stakes to go out, is how far you can stretch that tent out. And that capacity, that divine elasticity, that divine capacity is in every last one of us. And the only thing that limits us from being able to tap into it is our mind, So I always say to go there is to know there. I also have a passion for youth and young adults, the emerging generation. There's such a huge intentional and deliberate strategy to confuse them about their identity, their sexuality, their faith. And so I believe it is incumbent upon us as Titus 2 women to help help to direct them and to steer them in the right direction, especially in a time when it's such a huge assignment against confusing them about their identity and their sexuality. So we have about 11 books that we wrote concerning that. One of my, I think, most classic pieces is The Filter Factory, and that's helping to deal with mind management, because one of the greatest challenges for people to be able to overcome is the ability to think about what you think about. You don't have to let your thoughts dictate you. And so we do a lot in the area of coaching in that area, helping people to think bigger, to think from a paradigm of where you want to go, because you're going to lean towards your most dominant thoughts. And our missions arm is the arm that does a holistic approach of development, where we do everything from digging wells to septic tanks to tiny houses to solar. We have a clinic with 2 clinics in Liberia, and then a school in Liberia with 850 kids. And then so we build sustainable communities, and we call them eco-villages, because in the eco-village community, they have the community garden, they have their own solar, they have their own adequate housing, they have their own water from the borehole, they have their own septic tank for sewage. So it's a self-sustain, because as we talk about a worldview, one of the main agendas of the global elites, meaning IMF, World Bank, World Economic Forum, all of these, they are pushing their agenda to developing countries and threatening them that if they don't succumb to their agenda, they're going to withhold their aid. And we know God is not about that. So we help them to build sustainable communities where they don't have to depend on aid, taking people from aid to trade.
Wow. I mean, listen, she has said so much in just a short period of time. And I know people are on the edge of their seats, Dr. Pat, saying, but how did you get this way? You know, our show is Mindset to Millions. And when I came to South Africa and I visited your homes, and, you know, the way you allow us to serve, and then your team served us, and the meals and the restaurants and the going out and doing everything that we did. What was the shift for you in your mindset to get you to a point that you believe that you could have a massive impact globally?
I saw a template, an archaic template. I'm going to get a little water, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I saw an archaic template being used for missions and, let's say, development. I really shouldn't say development, but let's just say a template being used for the African diaspora of the continent at large, as well as the Caribbean, like, you know, Haiti and the islands. And I saw that this template that was being modeled, used by the global elites, by World Bank, United Nations, World Economic Forum, the International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, all of these who control the economies of nations, I saw that they were flooding the continent and the African diaspora with a mindset and a template and a model of aid to the tune of $12 trillion annually. $12 trillion. $12 trillion. So now pause with that thought and let's couple this. So with that $12 trillion, you choose to give aid to $12 trillion to a continent that you can't even talk about nuclear warfare. You can't talk about technology and IT without this continent that provides to the entire world all the raw minerals that are needed, not only to make the world go round, but uranium, platinum in a place called it's Rustenburg, the Bafokeng Kingdom, Royal Bafokeng Kingdom. They have 80 to 90% of the world's platinum deposit. DRC, Democratic Republic of the Congo, has 80% of coltan and cobalt. So right now, without coltan and cobalt, we wouldn't be on this Zoom. We wouldn't have the iPads, the Samsungs, the laptops, the computers. It wouldn't exist. The computer systems of NASA and the Pentagon and just the aviation world, the medicinal world, everything that uses a computer system, from your traffic lights, it needs cobalt and coltan. And Africa provides that to the world. And we're not going to talk about the fuel with the oil and so many different things, which stabilizes our money, the gold. It goes on and zinc, rubber, copper. And it just doesn't seem fair that the continent that produces to the world what they need for development remains the most underdeveloped. So why would I continue to follow a path of just doing aid, like a handout? Because I want those that are listening tonight to think with me. Why do they want a aid welfare state mentality versus trade? And let me give you some clues so you'll make an A on the test. They don't use that template with Brazil. Now, I'm going to listen to the countries and see what they spell out. Brazil begins with a B. They don't use that template with Russia. Russia begins with an R. They don't use that template with India. I. They don't use that template with China. C. They don't use that template. They do not use that template at all in these countries that have been given trade. Look at India. Look what kind of trade industry India has. China. Does China have trade? Are you kidding me? Everywhere you look, made in China. And they've raised up how many millionaires? How many millionaires and billionaires? So you're not flooding China with aid, and you're not flooding Russia with aid, and you didn't flood Brazil or India with aid. Why are you? And none of these countries have the minerals to do trade, as much trade as the continent of Africa. But yet you flood it with aid. Wow. So why would you want to continue to push a template of aid versus trade? Because what does aid do? What does aid create in the mindsets of people? What does welfare create in the mindsets of people? Question. Let's see if we can get some little. I don't know if we're able to get some interactive response. Can they put some things in the chat so we can feel like we in this together? So yes. Why do you think that would be? What does? Let's ask the first question. What does flooded aid produce in the mindsets of individuals? Aid.
Wow. Let's see who's on our chat. We have some great people, and I want to welcome them. And I know you all are hearing this and you're getting so much out of it. So good to see Elder Lisa Jacobs. Thank you for coming on. Felicia, Ronnie, thank you for jumping on. Tamiko, we see Rich, Coach Rich, he's here, the owner of this station. Dr. Marcia is in the building. So many, Michelle Baker, Nikki, good to see you. Dr. Patricia is asking questions, and you can't see their questions, but I can see it on the, you can't see their answers, but I can see it on the app as they come in. And we got like a 90-second delay, so it may come in a little bit later, but as they come in with their answers, I'll share those. Dr. Pat, let me ask you this as people are coming in with their answers. You know, you have a brilliant mindset. That's why I wanted you to be the first guest for the first show. Having an opportunity to see what you're doing, and what I'm hearing you say is you decided to understand what was happening around you and not just go with the regular flow.
Be a
Let me
game
ask,
changer. Change the game. Change the
yes,
game.
let me
Mhm.
ask you this. People who are tuning in and are listening in, and you know, they want to move towards a mindset to millions globally, you know, in their communities. South Africa, they want to jump in. When you think about moving towards mindset and missions, what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have?
Well, I was hoping to get some interaction from them because the answer to that question is, in case no one's responded yet, the answer to that question is flooded aid, and I call it dead aid, produces a dependency where those countries are dependent on the aid giver. When you do trade versus aid, the person becomes self sufficient, they become empowered, they become economically stable. They can now move towards a mindset of millionaires because they now, instead of having a mindset of a donor recipient or welfare recipient
Mm.
or an aid recipient, they now begin to think entrepreneurship. They begin to think of ownership. And even with the tiny houses, we're taking people from generations of having never owned anything and giving them the key and building them the house. Now, the children in that household, for many of them, become the first generation that are in a generation of ownership. So they grow up now for the first time seeing what ownership looks like, especially in countries from years ago that lived up under things like apartheid. Now they get a chance to grow up and see ownership. We own something. And now you can pass that transgenerational mindset on to the next generation versus passing on a mindset of a systemic chain of poverty. It's a game changer. And then we do things like business in the bag. We took countries like Haiti, quote unquote, supposed to be the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Let's do a little bit of history because you guys know I'm a historian. Okay, so Haiti years ago, Toussaint Louverture, uh, he was their conqueror. He's their leader, their type of Martin Luther King or Nelson Mandela. And what he did was he defeated Napoleon in the 1800s, and they were free as a nation. They were the first Black nation to ever be free on the world stage. They defeated Napoleon, and so they were like the superpowers were like lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, lions and tigers! We can wear this. Can't have this. Suppose this suppose this gets out to the slaves in America, because when this happened, we were still 65 years behind them before the Emancipation Proclamation. So for 65 years, there was a free African diaspora country that was 70 miles from our border. But for many cases, people weren't able to read and write. And I'm not making a racist statement. I'm giving you some racial history, okay? And so it took two of their francs, Haitian francs, to make $1. So the superpowers of the day, the economic superpowers of the day that be, band together and began to impose sanctions against Haiti and embargoes because they were so economically strong. They had to break their back economically so that they can teach a lesson to the non-freed slaves, because slavery had not been abolished yet, and the other African diaspora countries which had not been freed yet. Ghana was not free yet. Ghana would have been one of the next ones to follow. Ethiopia is the only one that was never colonized. So now, how did Haiti go from being, pay attention, you all, like we were in class, from a superpower and an Afrocentric superpower where they were the main industry for coffee and the leaders for coffee was not Colombia or Brazil. It was Haiti. Sugar, leading industry for sugar, was not Cuba. It was Haiti. And sugar in those days was like IT and oil in the last century. Okay. In the last industry century. So they were super. It was the pearl of the Antilles. If you had any money in any class about yourself, you wanted to go to this island, Haiti. It was like the Monaco, the south of France, and best culinary. How do you go from that to being the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere? Don't have a president right now, quote unquote, a failed state. When King Leopold, in the days of when he ruled in the Congo, and it got to the point that the World Court, he had slaughtered over 1 million Congolese because he wanted to be leading in the rubber industry, and it was just horrible, King Leopold. And so when they pushed him out of the Congo, they had to send for teachers because the people had not been educated. Where did they go get teachers from? They went and got teachers from Haiti, the best teachers in the Francophone world, the best teachers. So how do you go from the best teachers in the Francophone world with all those French-speaking countries, even French-speaking countries in Africa, French-speaking countries in the islands? You didn't go get teachers from Paris. You went and got them from Haiti. And how now can your illiteracy rate be so high now? How can there be a mindset of poverty when you were once leading? You were an economic superpower in the Antilles. What happened, Tammie? They flooded Haiti with aid. There's more aid workers in Haiti and in Ethiopia than anywhere else in the world. There are more UN workers, Red Cross workers in Haiti than anywhere else in the world. So interesting enough, the two countries that are the donor recipient nations, they get more aid than anybody does, happen to be the poorest in the Eastern Hemisphere and the poorest in the Western Hemisphere. But Ethiopia started becoming a game changer. The second half of BRICS, those countries that I spelled out earlier, BRIC, I didn't do S for South Africa, but BRICS, countries that they did not give an aid template to, are the countries now that are saying, we want our own global currency and our own trade currency. We don't need to trade with the US dollar. We want to trade with our own currency. So you know what that's going to do to the American dollar. And look at the countries that's doing it. The countries that they didn't use aid. So then now Haiti, the two countries that got flooded aid became the two poorest countries, one in the eastern, which would be Ethiopia, one in the western, which would be Haiti. But Ethiopia is beginning to pull herself up by the bootstrings. And believe it or not, the second half of BRICS countries that signed up, Ethiopia.
Wow.
She's stabilizing her economy. She's saying, awesome. We don't want aid. We want in on the trade game. Well, let's go back to the Bible.
Dr. Patricia, let me add this because you asked people some questions. Dr. Marcia says it looks like from aid to trade. Tamiko says that's awesome and true. Trade makes the difference. So people are tuning in and they're hearing everything that you're saying. And someone says this insight is so awesome. I see Lady L is on as well. So people are really hearing what it is that you're saying because the show is about how to shift your mindset to millions. Go ahead.
So with the aid mindset, you're waiting for somebody to do it for you. You're waiting for a handout. You're waiting for somebody to give it to you. And my pastor says, if they give it to you, they can take it from you. But in Genesis 1:26 through 28, in the seed plot book of the Bible, when God created man, he says, I created you in my image and in my likeness. And then as he starts saying how he created us to deal with our identity, he then now deals with our purpose and our functionality. And as he begins to deal with our purpose and our functionality, to have dominion, subdue. Listen to these words. Ain't nothing passive about these words. Dominion, subdue, to be in authority, to bring things under subjection that is not in alignment with my sovereign will. And then he segues into be fruitful, multiply, increase. And those original Hebrew words, Pele, Mete, all these Hebrew words, they literally mean trade. They mean to trade, to do business, to be scalable, to increase, to multiply, to franchise. So inside of everybody is the ability to grow and expand and trade and increase. It's your inborn covenant nature. It's your God-given nature, not aid, not welfare, not
Let
a
me add
handout.
this because you asked people
Even when
some
Jesus,
questions.
when he modeled
Dr.
to the
Marcia says
disciples
it looks
the
like
first
from
time with the
aid to
fish and the 5
trade.
loaves, and then there was another
Tamiko
situation where they had a
says
whole mass of
that's
hungry people
awesome
again,
and true.
and they trying to send the people away. And he says, "Don't you send them away hungry." And they're trying to figure out what to do after he's already modeled to them that he followed a template. He took the bread, he gave thanks, he blessed it and multiplied. The second time he says, "Don't you send them away hungry, you feed them." Well, in 2 Kings 4, verse 7, when the woman said the creditors have come, she had a poverty mentality, not an increase mentality. She had a poverty mentality, not a millionaire mentality. She says, the creditors, my husband's dead. 1 Kings 4:1, and then you get on down to 7. And the creditors have come to take my sons. The sons were her financial security, her legacy to get out of this would have been her sons. And then listen to this. Daddy could not have been on top of his game with business because number one, Daddy was in debt up to the house and everything. Daddy had not taught the boys how to make money, how to multiply money, how to increase. He was in the school of the prophets. He was but he was not handling his business. He didn't have a millionaire's mindset. He didn't pass that on to his boys. He didn't pass on that transgenerational millionaire's mindset because the boys would have been able to sustain their mother out of poverty. So then what did now the prophet say to her? He says, "What can I do for you? And what do you have in your house?" So what can I do for you means make an assessment, make a needs assessment with yourself, take inventory. Where are you? Where are you in your debt? Where are you in how to believe for a certain level of finances? Where are you in your financial planning, your financial integrity, your financial accountability? Where are you within it? Your financial discipline? Where are you?
Wow.
What do you need? What's your state? And then once he says, "What can I do for you?" What do you have in your house? What do you have? Give me something to work with because everybody has something to work with in their house. In their house. The house
Dr. Pat, this is good. I'm telling you.
She said, so then watch what a poverty mentality says. Her poverty mentality says, "I have nothing." And the prophet didn't even deal with that. He just disregarded that because he's like, "That's not true. You're not going to make God a lie. Everybody has something. Everybody has something." So now guess what he reveals to her? She says, "I have nothing but," thank God there was something on the other side of her butt. Okay. So she says, "but a cruise of oil." And, she just talks about the little bit that she has. So then now he gives her a financial strategy to begin to move from a poverty mentality to a millionaire's mindset, to a millionaire's mindset. To a millionaire's mindset. She could have went on to billion if she followed this through. So he says, "Go borrow vessels and don't borrow a few." Like, don't think poverty, don't think small. Get as many as you can. Don't have any limitation. Go and stretch this thing out, make it scalable, increase it as far as you need to go. Because as long as there were vessels, there was oil. So now when he said go borrow, today we can borrow knowledge from others. We can borrow relationship currency. We can borrow templates. Are you hearing me? We can borrow the wisdom and knowledge. We can borrow even financial plans and financial literacy. We can make an exchange. And so to see someone who's already done what I want to do, I'm going to borrow your wisdom. I'm going to borrow your experiences, and I'm not going to limit myself, not a few. And as she borrowed, he said, now, when they fill with the oil, sell the oil. Don't pray over the oil. Don't use it for anointing oil. Don't anoint the house. Don't anoint the cow. Take the oil, sell it. So he's putting her in marketplace ministry immediately coming out the gate. Sell it. He made her all barren. Sell it. So she went from eviction. I don't own anything. I'm in debt to my ears. I'm poor. My husband didn't have things in place before he died. My sons have not seen a template of a millionaire's mindset. Their daddy didn't show them. To now, all we got to do is keep making sure we got vessels. So she should have taken the money from the oil and went into the vessel making business. That's making it, that's thinking like a millionaire. Now you're making it franchise and scalable. You're scaling things out. You're not just taking the cow to make hamburgers and have McDonald's, but you're buying land and you're taking the cow. And so I'm taking the oil and I'm selling the oil. And the first thing I'm doing is I'm paying off my debt because I can't think financial creativity with all this debt on me, because debt oppresses and shuts down your creativity. Okay, the stress shuts it down. So then now I take some of the oil, I pay off the debts, and I buy some land. Then I take some of the oil, and with that land, I buy some cows, and I take the oil that I'm still continuing to buy. I got to make sure that I get some vessels because I borrowed these vessels. I got to give them back. So I'm going to have a pottery school, and I'm going to have a pottery rental shop. And then I'm going to take the land that I have to get the dirt to make the clay to make the pottery. So I'm going to have a pottery school. I'm going to have a pottery rental center. I'm going to make sure that I'm never out of vessels, because as long as I'm making pots, and as long as I'm renting pots, and as long as are continuing to be made, I'm going to put them where the oil is, because it's going to keep bringing me more money, more money, more money, more money, as long as I got vessels. So I can have a school teaching people how to make pottery. I can have a pottery rental place. I can have a pottery museum. Are you hearing me? I can, and I'm taking the money that from this coming in the oil from the pottery, and I'm like, I bought cows now, and I bought land now, and I some of that land, I have sharecroppers now that are growing crops on my land. And then while they're over there growing crops on my land, my cows over here are breeding, and I'm breeding Black Angus bulls. And out of the cow, I'm not just having hamburger or steaks, but I got leather shoes and leather coats and leather furniture. And I've got milk and cottage cheese and yogurt and butter and whipping cream and everything else that comes from milk. Okay, I've got the sperm from the cows that's the black from the Black Angus bulls. Are you hearing me? I got the meat. So then from the meat, I got restaurants. Are you hearing me? I got beef jerky. I got dried beef. I got are you hearing me? All from the cow. The cow has leather shoes, leather coat, leather furniture, all from the cow. And I'm still making vessels. And the oil's still coming. Now, I've taught my sons, and now I have a literacy school and a wealth management school, so that when I'm dead and gone, my sons will not be left in a situation that their daddy left them in. They're going to teach their sons transgenerational wealth. So now we're going to have franchises for our family. So now we have a family enterprise, and we're passing on transgenerational wealth. And now there is no wealth gap when it comes to us, because we still making vessels and the oil still coming. And we're not limiting the pottery shops to right there where we are. We have now got a franchise of pottery shops.
Wow. Dr. Pat, this chat is blowing up. I'm looking here, and Tamiko JT says, this is so awesome because trade makes the difference. We have aid can paralyze the mind to prevent you from moving forward. The people are hearing you. We have Tanya Powell. She's in on the show. Welcome, Tanya. Welcome, Dr. Hawkins. She's in. Somebody said Marketplace Ministry. Says JT says, this is a great teaching that many need to hear. People are putting in fire, because what you're teaching is not something that everybody can hear on a regular basis unless they're tuning in to the right people. Now, I looked at a video YouTube clip of you recently, and you talked about the power of financial futuring. Do you remember when you gave that talk? Mm-hmm. And you shared what it means and how we can benefit from it. And what you're talking about tonight, it ties in. I want you to speak to the person that's listening in and tuning in. It's like, oh my God, this is so good. This is good information. When you're talking about financial futuring, what about the person who this is new to them, but they want to have a mindset for millions? Where do they start?
You lean towards your most dominant thought, okay? And the way God created us, we have the ability to project with our thoughts with our thoughts, the power of imagination. We can imagine, we can think, we can visualize, because visualization brings manifestation. We don't have to continue to see ourselves poor or in lack or in debt. One of the things I'm going to get back to in 2024, I heard this from a very wealthy man, Al and Hattie Hollingsworth. They said that at the top of their morning, the first 1 hour, can you imagine what kind of discipline that is? The first 1 hour, they don't talk. They get something to write with. They are in place of silence and they're visualizing when they first wake up before the mind gets flooded with checking your email and checking your Facebook and Instagram and somebody called. They take that time of silence and the fresh watch. I call it not just the first watch, but I gave it the name, the fresh watch. When your mind is fresh and it's not inundated, and they project and visualize and imagine and plan and dream, and the stuff that comes out of the fresh watch. And so with that, you can begin to project and to plan and to future your financial your financial future. Watch this. Isn't it interesting that we spend most of our time using the language of where our finances are now? You have the creative ability of the tongue, and you're using the tongue to talk more about and use the financial language of where you are now. Why can't you use that very same tongue and start talking like a millionaire and thinking like a millionaire? And what you say, I just learned this in my Hebrew lesson. In the actual Hebrew, it means when you say the word say, pay. The year pay was last year, pay, to speak. Tesavah, to speak. When you testify in the Hebrew, it means what you say comes to you, but what you write comes to pass. Can I say that again?
Say it
again. In the Hebrew mind, what you say comes to you. Val, can you help me out and open up this window? When I get like this girl, the anointing's on me, it's getting hot. It's getting hot in here. I can't take off my clothes. I can't take off my clothes. It's getting hot in here. And I'm not even having a personal summer because I don't have those, but it's getting warm in here. I feel the anointing. So what happens is you have the ability to, what you say will come to you, the law of attraction, but what you write. So start writing out your financial future and start speaking your financial future and start talking. That means you get rid of some words in your vocabulary, like I'm broke, I can't afford, I don't have, and scarcity. And some of these mindsets of saving the napkins from McDonald's and straws for McDonald's and the butter in a crock or whatever thing. And instead of getting proper Tupperware and matching stuff and mix match forks and mix match glasses and stuff from the Chinese restaurant where you took the little plastic thing, get rid of it. I have to tell my sister all the time. She be saving them. Get rid of them. Get some matching glassware. Get some matching Tupperware. You deserve it. And as long as you keep making a vacuum for that scarcity, you're breeding poverty. You're calling that to you. You're calling that. So those are trees that need to be uprooted. You can't build on top of poverty. You got to get rid of that poverty mindset, because poverty and opulence will not coexist. Can I say that again? Please. Poverty and opulence will not coexist. They just won't do it. And it's amazing how subtle the limited scarcity mindset creeps in. Like started saving stuff in case this and in case I need that, and hoarding up stuff and putting stuff away. And, instead of believing that at that very moment when it's needed, God himself shall provide. He shall provide. Just think about when the disciples needed to pay their taxes. They didn't have to toil. Nobody went to all night prayer. Nobody was speaking in tongues. Jesus says, go fishing. The first fish that comes, open his mouth, the corn will be enough to pay the taxes. And they tell me, historians say that there was a rare corn that was so expensive, it was enough to pay all of the taxes and more.
Mm.
Can I give you one more since you're asking me to go here?
Please.
To go.
Yes.
So remember when Jesus told Peter to launch out into the deep and cast the net out, okay? And for a big draught. And it was a boat sinking load. And he had to call his other friends and partners and say, hey guys, you got to help me. I can't even take this all in. It's just too much. Okay.
Mm.
And so what did Peter do? Because Peter was a commercial fisherman. He was not just a little fisherman that went fishing. He was a commercial fisherman. That means that's clear to me because I live where I see the water, I overlook the water. And at night, I see the commercial fishermen out there with the big bright lights out on the water doing their commercial fishing. They're looking for lobster, shrimp, scallops, salmon, whatever. That's all out there in that Pacific Ocean. And they're commercial fishermen, and they're taking the fish and they're selling the fish. So when he got that boat sinking load, he had to do the same thing that the woman with the cruise of oil could have done, because the Bible says when the vessels ran out, the oil ran out. She had a limited mentality. She had a scarcity mentality. That thing could have still been going on today. But so Peter had to, because right after he gave him that boat sinking load with all that fish, he says, follow me and I'm going to take you to be fishermen of men. And then you never see for 3 years what Peter ever had to worry about his family that he left at home being taken care of. When we went to Capernaum and we saw Peter's mother-in-law's house, I'm like, wow, they have lied to us. So just think what Peter was able to do. Salt fish, dried fish, fish oil. He could have went into the business of nets because the nets was all broken. And now I have a net repair school and a net repair shop, and I have fish net store that I sell fish nets and boats. Jesus asked for his boat. I have boats. I have rental boats. I have a boat making school. We make boats. We rent boats. We have dried fish. We have salt fish. We have fresh fish. And then you got to employ people because you got to put your fish inside of shops. And then you need to buy salt to salt the fish. And then you got fish oil and then the omega that's in the fish skin. And then you could have taken fish. It just went on and on. Then, not only that, while they were selling that fish in that whole area and flooding the market with dried fish, salt fish, this fish, smoked fish, all the kind of fish oil and the boats and the nets, then there's got to be a courier because they didn't have bank transfers that were bringing the money from the fish that was sold to bring to Peter to pay his families, make sure they were taken care of. Mother-in-law got a beautiful house on the water in Capernaum. You don't see anywhere where Peter's struggling to be able to survive. And then the money from the fish could have been financing some of Jesus' ministry.
Woo, lady.
Isn't it interesting that when Peter thought that he had died and wasn't going to rise, Peter went back to He went back to his money.
To his trade.
Went back to his trade.
Come on.
Went back to his trade. He didn't go to aid. He went back to his trade. Trade.
He didn't go to aid. He went back to trade. Dr. Patricia, you have said so much, and people are in the chat. They're like, we need this. This is the kind of teaching that you don't hear. JT says, our people need to hear these teachings. Many hunger for it, but they cannot find it, and I know you have so much more to share. And then I see people just like soaking this up. Talk to us a little bit about, like, you're my coach. I'm one of your mentees now. I'm learning so much from you.
And I'm going to stay on you like a chicken on a bug. I'm telling you.
Oh, and I'm going to surrender.
So much in you.
I'm going to surrender, and I'm headed back to Africa again to sit at her feet. But if you don't mind, talk to us a little bit about some of the programs that you have available for people to tap into to help get them to a different way of living, even as it relates to missions. I know it's a lot of projects that you have coming up. Talk to us a little bit about those things.
First of all, we have something called FTI, Financial Transformation Institute, and it's just a few weeks course It's all on they're all videos, and you don't have to take tests or anything. It's accelerated learning. It's more intake and you getting the information. So I'm not interested in you passing a test. I want you to get the information. It's called FTI, Financial Transformation Institute. How to have not only just financial literacy, but some of the things you hear me teach you how to change our mindsets and different things that we can invest in. And I think it's so interesting with Forex trade and trading and stuff and options. You see that from the very beginning, I mean, God, that's why I think Jewish people do so good with trade, because you see it going all the way back in the Bible. I mean, Joseph, when he was there in Egypt, they were trading grain, and he was the financier. He was the minister of finance of the country, and there was trade going on. And God showed him the whole. Even with Jacob, Laban tried to trick him, and he had to outsmart him. And God was teaching him trade. You know, he had the spotted and speckled. He had the others, and so we see over and over and over again where this whole idea of increased trade business. And so we teach that. That's one of the things we teach in FTI. But then also we allow short-term mission trip where you can come in now, go on the field with me like you did, and we go bring, because when we start, as we are, not start, but as we are making our money has a mission. Our wealth has an assignment, and our prosperity has a purpose. So now we're making the money, and we are assigning our wealth to those who don't have adequate housing. We're assigning our wealth to those who don't have clean water. We're assigning our wealth to those who don't have health care, the women that are bleeding out on the side of the road because the closest clinic is 9 hours away. We're assigning our wealth to what God wants done in the earth, to what he wants done in the earth. And so as we are doing that and give you these opportunities to now take your wealth and let your wealth have expansion. Let your wealth have purpose and assignment. And then what you make happen for others, he keeps on making it happen for you. You're never going to end up on the short end of the stick. They that give to the poor shall never lack. And we not just want to give them aid, but we want to empower them to prosper. Let me just drop another piece here. In some of the most mineral resource countries in the continent of Africa, like Sudan and Congo, where you've got cobalt, coltan in Sudan, where you got the richest, darkest crude oil. In the rural areas where the minerals are, the illiteracy rate is off the chart. This has been by design so that people are sitting on the wealth, but you can't even write a business plan because literacy is a challenge. Schools are a challenge. So like out there where we're working, my school that has 850 kids, it's the gold capital. It's the gold peak of the continent. We're not going to raise up another generation that's never seen laptops, never had laptops, and you a stone throw away from the gold belt of the continent. How are we going to sit back and just keep on talking about we're going to give aid? Have you lost your mind? And then we're going to do crusades only. Thank God for crusades. Thank God for salvation. But why can't we do both? Because when the crusade is over and the person packs up and leaves and go back to the country, and those villagers go back to their village where there's no clean water, if they got healed from elephantitis, if they got healed from cholera, if they got healed from typhoid and the crusade, and they go back to their village and there's no clean water, what's going to happen? You're infected again. They go back and there's no banks, there's no infrastructure, there's no economic development, there's no IT training. Then you're not even in the workforce development line. So we've got to start thinking different. We're called to make disciples of nations. That word disciple them means to develop nations. And so we have all these we have Sisters Empowering the World for women who believe that they're called to impact and empower women globally. We have a Global Leadership Training Center so that you can get a biblical worldview. All of these are online. And our schools are different. We're going to make GLTC accredited. That's about one of the only ones. But I'm more interested in giving you the information, you absorbing it, meditating it, and having a practical application to the information. That been 43 years in 148 countries.
Dr. Patricia, man, this time has went by so fast. We only have 4 minutes left. Yes, you have been on a roll, but listen to this. Music says, really, really appreciate your expertise. Cheryl says, they that give to the poor shall never lack. So people are hearing what it is that you're saying, and they're understanding moving from aid to trade. JT says, and you're right, JT, you are blessed with an awesome mentor. Yes, yes. And and I want to say this right before we close up. Let me do this first. Dr. Pat, give them your website. They
Thank
need to
you.
get on your website tonight. What is your website?
PatriciaBailey.org. It's so easy. PatriciaBailey.org. And you'll see the clinics that we have. You'll see our water projects. You'll see the upcoming trips that we have. We have one in February. We have trips in April. We welcome you to come with us in April. Those of you that can get on, what I'm going to do is something special. You'll have to get with Tammie, and it's going to be just for those that's in this room and that are in your circle, Tammie.
Yes.
I'm going to do a special discounted price, like crazy. Like they're going to say, I don't even believe this. I don't even believe it. That's how
it's
crazy
already a good price now.
Yeah, but I'm going to discount it for them so that I don't want them. I want them to start out with a trajectory, a financial trajectory for the year. I don't want anybody to say they can't afford it. And I want to take them through this so we can shift their mindset and that there can be financial transformation. I will teach them in these classes how I was able to go from being in debt to paying off bills to putting a house on the market for $3 million that I was sitting on $3 million worth of equity. I mean, I had equity in a house that I didn't even know that the house was worth, that I was crying and praying for a solution, and I was sitting on my solution. And I want to show them how to break into those realms, and I want to go in those realms together. I want to show them how I believed and what I actually did to believe for $180,000 in 10 days. And it went beyond 180 in 10 days. It went to 200,000 in 10 days. What actually did I do? And so for those who want to go there in another zone and don't want this 2024 just to be another year, but it truly is a year of a new open door for you. That new open door is a debt-free life. That's what I'm believing for. And let's go there together.
Woo! This has been magnificent. You all heard it from her own mouth. Cheryl says, thank you. Thank you. Congratulations on the broadcast. So many people got so much out of this. Her website is easy. PatriciaBailey.org. Go up there. You'll see everything that she's doing. We're down to 60 seconds. Dr. Bailey, thank you so much. I know your day was packed with so many events. You are always busy. You are always on the go. I am honored that you will come on my first show to talk about mindset to millions globally. If you have not given us some information to go and eat on tonight, from transgenerational wealth, writing out your future, the jars, and just what's in our hands. Oh my goodness, you said so many things. Thank you so much, woman of God.
Let me say this, and I want to leave them with this.
Yes.
If we don't shift in the mindset of what you're saying, we will end up, watch this, in South Africa today. It's one of the reasons why we work there, and we have a headquarters there. 2% of the people still have 98% of the wealth. So apartheid has ended, but economic apartheid never ended. Never ended.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
And
God bless you.
I hope to see them in South Africa on one of our trips. We have Jamaica for Jesus too, for women and men and all. So when they go to the website, tell them to reach out to me. They can connect with me. I'm not one of those kind of people you can't reach. You can reach me and I will respond.
She responds to telephone, text messages, emails, and all of the above. Thank you, Dr. Pat. I know we're going to probably have a 30-second delay, but thank you for everything on tonight. I love you so much, and I can't wait to see you in a few weeks.
Absolutely. It's going to be awesome. This one right here is specialized just for you. God bless you.
God bless you.